Hi guys, we are happy to be here. We spent the week kind of laying down horizontal. We got into the latest flu, which has some kind of a looping fever. You think you get through one and then you're going to be alright, and then you go to another and you take aspirin, you get it off, you think it'll be alright, it goes into another, and just goes on. Take medicine, you get a little bit better, and then go back into another. So anyway, spent days being slowed down for sure for me. Got through it by shocking the back of the throat with alcohol, and as soon as I did that, I'm not recommending it, but
He's not a doctor, and he doesn't even play one on TV.
No, I don't even play one on TV. So, but I did get better, and actually Christina did too. One of the things that I wanted to talk about my mom, and just because I owe her for being here. There is no population that's going to be around without mothers and the miracle that they do. So I would like to be not lagged by a flu, mentally or physically or anything. I would like to be at my best. I would even like to talk about the mom that I married, but again, I wouldn't be doing her justice either. Right before I declared myself sick, I made a 20-minute video, which I intended it to be a 1 minute, but mine started adding to what I was saying, and it was basically trying to convey to not necessarily the bad comment people. I really didn't. I didn't expect anybody that ever left a bad comment to read what I have to say, but or nor do I expect anybody that they feel any kind of obligation to listen to what I have to say. I did want to get my viewpoint about it, and it hasn't changed. It isn't tilted because I was not feeling well, I don't think. The bad comments are amusing to me, and sometimes a challenge, as I explained it to Christina. What I'm trying to do is not, in my mind, not to hurt I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. It's like, don't hurt the handicapped child publicly. Don't say insulting things to somebody that's handicapped. I'm not saying that I'm above these people, but a lot of their comments are, at very best, low intelligent usually. Just trying to dig. And it probably works on TikTok videos and, shorts and comments like that, because people read them and other people feed off of them. There's a whole thing about seeing a video that's interesting and then going to the comments and see what's interesting there. So there's a whole bunch of people that are living that way. And what I don't want is those bad comments or my responses to discourage people from picking up something because somebody declared, that's not right, for whatever reason. And nor do I go to anybody else's channel at any time and leave bad comments. It's just not a habit of mine to do that. So that's, I guess, going to be released at some point. Interesting thing this week was we ran into using a caulking gun called Silly Gun. Trying not to be terribly unserious, but that's what they call it, a silly gun. You might check out that little 1 minute review, but I want to do a in-depth review on it because it's a very interesting caulking gun in a lot of different ways, and I'll have to explain it to you in a separate, lengthier video, especially after I use it more. So, but it's really short, and costs $20, but it's short, and when you use half a tube of caulking or something, you can literally cut off the back of it because it goes through the middle of it, and it suctions it back, and it cuts it at the same time. I'll have to show it to you. But we did release that, and we were doing good to release anything, Christina particularly, because she suffered at least as badly as I did, if not more. I apologize for not sharing more with my adventures and things that I've learned along the way. it's not that I've run out of things to do. It's more of my problems are finding the time when the customer, the customer doesn't mind. I'll literally have to explain to them, look, hey, I'm not going to charge you for this time that we're going to stop and talk about this product or this job, and they're unless they know me, they may be a little bit worried that I might be charging them, so I can literally end up losing $100 because I wanted to make sure they understood that I wasn't charging them for the time that we were talking to you guys. And I also want you to know that even if you are just one of a few that listen to this, it's available for me to leave it for my children, and they can see me and the way I think about things and the situations, and they can listen to me. They've worked with me enough that they know that it's accurate, and so I can leave like a diary, something that they get to know me by in a job fashion. And that would be really, really interesting to have been able to learn from my grandmother's second husband, who was a truck driver for the most of his career, but he did a lot of other things. He was poor during the Depression era. He told me a story when I was a teenager, say upper teens, but he's told me a lot of stories, and I can tell you some. But he was, anyway, he was not my original grandfather. My original grandfather, I saw him one time when he wasn't drunk. And that was with my youngest brother's wedding. And I only saw him from a distance. I was there to support my brother, but the only time I'd ever seen him when he wasn't drunk. My dad used to call him up, say, I'm going to bring the boys over to meet you so they can meet their grandpa and get to know him. And again, try not to be drunk. Okay, and he'd start drinking. By the time we got there, he was drunk, which it was about an hour, maybe more. So we were little kids, and Dad was trying to have some history, and that tells you what kind of guy Dad was. He was trying to have, his kids have some history with their grandfather. So this other grandfather was a guy that my grandmother, they got together, and he was a very interesting character. Had a real acidy humor about him. He could work on just about anything that I thought. He was magical to me. I mean, he and my dad and people that I knew, they would get into things and just try to figure it out, and he was one of those guys. Anyway, he was telling me this story when he was broke, but he's a pretty good sized boy. He said you used to be able to go down the streets and find a bar, and the bar would pay you $1 to fight, and if you put that dollar up, you could win $5 if you won the fight. And he says, well, that's a lot of money back then, $5. You worked for days to get that much money. He says, and I was a big old boy, so I decided, I could fight good. And he went and he fought, and he won a couple times. He had some pretty tight, and he didn't fight every one after another. He didn't become rich in one day or something, but he was able to fight here and there and get some food money or little extra money, and he would win sometimes, quite often actually, the way he talked. He said, but when I decided to stop doing that and just concentrate on working, he says, I went into this small bar, and there was a big man, muscled up. He looked like a boxer. And he was a black man in a white man's bar. Wow. So it was kind of unusual. And he had just hit somebody and knocked him out when he was walking in the door. He says, I'm still tough, I can do this. So he goes up and says, hey, I want to try it out. And I was like, yeah, go ahead. So he went up there, and he said, this guy started checking everything out, seeing if I actually knew anything, and because I kind of stood like I did and acted like I was confident and everything. And I blocked a few of his tentative punches, and this is all bare fist. He said, then he reached out there and just popped me right in my big nose, broke my nose. He says, I couldn't see it was hurting so bad. And I thought, well, I can do this. I'm going to squint my eyes and keep going, bleeding everywhere. And he said, that guy just I was protecting myself and trying to swing, and I was bleeding. I couldn't see very good, and he just kept hitting me in the nose. And finally, I said, "I quit. That's it." And everybody went, "Oh." He says, "That's the last time I ever tried to fight for a living." So he says, "I don't like being hit in the nose even now, and that's why I got a crooked nose, grandson." So he. He was quite a character. He was a trucker, so he flirted with all the waitresses just to be flirting. I don't think if he ever got one, he would ever do anything. But he was that guy. He's always saying some smart aleck little remark, and I was like, wow, because my dad did not do that. And here's my grandpa, me and his grandson. And then he realized, oh, I'm saying stuff in front of my grandson, and I'm like, he just kept on going. He told me a story at a restaurant one time. He said, "Have you ever been in a plane?" I'm like, "No, sir." The counter's probably about up here. And he goes, "Well, I've been on a plane. And it wasn't a very good plane, but it was owned by this rich guy." He said, "Hey, you want to go on a plane with me?" And I should have known he was already drinking. He said, "Yeah, I'm flying a plane." So he got up in the plane and started flying. And the guy just kept on drinking, took a bottle with him and just kept on drinking. He said, next thing you know, and everybody in the restaurant starts, because he's talking real loud, started looking over. And he says, next thing you know, that guy just passed right out. He was drinking so hard. He was crazy flying. I didn't know, it seemed pretty wild to me, but I didn't know what was going on. But this guy passes out. And he's got headphones on. I was like, oh my God. The plane starts drifting off. I grab stick in front of me, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And then, I figure he's talking into the headphones. I let go of the wheel and oh, it's going somewhere. And he puts the headphones on and he starts talking. He says, "Hey, I'm flying this plane, and the guy that's flying it before me, he just fell out. He's not conscious anymore. What do I do? What do I do?" "Well, hold on, son. We'll get you to the airport. Just do what we tell you to do. Turn around, turn the wheel, your rudders, and turn your wheel. And pull back a little bit, get you out, there you go." And he says, and he got me all the way over to the runway, and there was a big time wind blowing across, and the plane was doing all kind of funny things. I'm like, oh, I don't know. And he's like, just do this. There's some pedals on the floor. Just push your foot on this one a little bit, now this one a little bit, pull back a little bit. Gives it a little bit of gas on that lever right there, and I'm like, oh my God, this is bad. I've never been this first time in a plane, and I'm coming into the runway, kind of coming in sideways. I said I got to do that, and then he stopped, and I'm like, what happened, Grandpa? And of course, the whole restaurant was listening to his talking real loud about it. He goes, I don't know, I woke up then. That was my grandpa. He had a lot of things that he said and did, and he was a diabetic. Knew he was, but if I went over to, have breakfast with him when I was with them, he would hey, you want a little sugar on your ham? Don't tell anybody I got some sugar here, just for you. So when he died, they went in to clean out he lived in a separate camper because my grandma and him were not getting along good. My grandma was in a nice home, and he's like, I'll have my own camper, you can't tell me what to do. But they, we're not going to get divorced. So they found bags of sugar here and there tucked away all over the place. So if they found one, told him, you can't have this, then he had another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. And he was working on a dump truck, as I recall, in his 70s, and he had a heart attack, and he couldn't get to his nitroglycerin pills. He didn't die immediately, but what damage was done did it to him. But you know what? He was trying to work on a dump truck, for goodness sake. A big old, 60s dump truck by himself, nobody there. He's underneath it, not in it, not on the hood, underneath it doing something, and has a problem. That's the way I understand it. And I look at, I do know of his faults, and I'm aware of them even more so as I've gotten older. But I can't help but admire his toughness getting through life. His son and I were very good friends for quite a while. I really haven't been keeping up with him. I should find out what's going on with him. But he was a character. I used to ride with him on occasion on his snow cone route, and he would say some outlandish things, And I think sometimes he set them
To shock people.
to shock me, you know. It's like, watch out, Grandpa, you're going to run over him. Don't worry about it. She'll have another one. And them little kids running right in front of the snow cone truck. I'm like, oh. And he kept a squirt gun. He said, don't mess with that. It's not a toy. Yeah, but okay. And it's been sitting in the windshield, this old, you know, it's hot in Texas. And so, you know, so whenever a bad dog would start barking at the ding, 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 as it going through, he'd grab that squirt gun and squirt him in the face and go, arr! He's like, well, so what is that? He says, that's old perfume. You aim for the eyes if you're going to use it. He said, stupid thing leaks on my hand, though. He would open up the side door, and all these kids were like, yeah, oh, yeah, shut up. Grouchy old man. You know, I will teach you all some manners, or ain't nobody getting no snow cone. But he was amusing at it. He would talk to all the kids. He almost knew them by name, and they knew him. His name was Errol. He was an amusing person to me, and he was a jolt of electricity in my life. Would not say that he's responsible for me, but he certainly is a part of my understanding the way people are. He has always stayed with me. He's a character that rides with me. He was not my flesh and blood, but you know what? He had a part of my raising. You know, he took me in, and you know, he goes, no, he didn't take me in. He's like, hey, come with me. You want to go with me, son? I said, yes, sir. And I have to ask my dad. Go ask your dad. Or I might have to be reminded to go ask my dad. You know, and Dad's like, you want to go with Grandpa Errol? And, yes, sir. Okay. My dad's like, ain't nobody get along with that old man, but somehow you do. Well, as far as I know, none of my brothers had anything to do with him. You know, he was a pretty grouchy old man, but he put up with me because, you know, if he told me to do something, I did it. And yes, sir. You know, probably 12, you know, and on up through the years, you know, he would just like, hey, come with me. Go ask your dad. So when I would go to Austin, we'd do that. My grandmother was quite a bit different. Softer, gentler, was an LPN, worked in nursing homes, and eventually she decided she wanted to be in a nursing home, a nice one, and she ended up in a nursing home, and didn't bother her, so she spent a lot of time out of the nursing home, you know, but she played solitaire a lot. It's one of the things I remember of her. So I came to Austin, and I thought, wow, this is a big city. There's tons of opportunity. People just throw everything away. You know, I was raised poor. I didn't know I was poor, but I was like, I can't believe people throw this stuff away. And one time I went with my uncle, who was 1 year younger than me. It tells you something about the age of my grandpa's kids, one of them. I guess the youngest, went to Dunkin' Donuts dumpster while they were open and grabbed this great big old plastic bag full of donuts, all kinds of filled ones and everything else. I mean, like Santa Claus, but clear bag. But man, I thought he had a treasure hunt. Hey, you got all these donuts, you know. Probably all those people sitting in there looking out the glass doors like, look at those guys getting donuts out of the dumpster. But I mean, I thought we were, you know, I remember one time we got a whole bunch of makeup. But anyway, tell you a little something about my grandmother. You know, I was like, hey, Grandma, can I keep these donuts in the freezer here? It's almost empty. She goes, oh, you don't put them donuts in there? What are you going to do that for? I was like, well, I just want to keep them from rotting. I can't eat all these. I'm sick of them already before I even got here. She goes, well, I guess, but if I buy more groceries, there need to be room in there. Yes, ma'am, I will eat them, I promise. And then it took me a while. This is a lot of smeared up donuts, but I didn't care. It was sugar and dough and random fillings and stuff like that, but it was cool. Frozen, sort of. You thaw them out and it was kind of soggy, which in my mind that was like, oh, it's kind of like fresh. No, it's not. But guess what I figured out? They were disappearing without me. My grandmother was sneaking in there and getting some donuts for herself. So when we went through that bag, I would buy donuts for her because I figured out she liked donuts. It's like, yo, you don't have to do that. I didn't ask for that. I don't know why you do things like that. And so I put them in the freezer and they slowly disappear. When they get down some, I go get her something else, you know. She would, oh, I don't know why you keep doing that. You know, just kind of act grouchy. And she would smile a little bit, you know. But it took a while. And but I lived with her for a little while too. Fixed things up, you know, made little islands, like a little dining table for her, and you know, we'd watch things together on TV. And she had a wood stove, and I'd bring the wood in. You know, then she didn't have to have a wood stove, but she did. It was a pretty decent one, warm morning or something like that. Had a fan and everything, and she had an addition. She had all this land that she inherited, you know, and she was like, she ended up trading, I don't know, it seems like it was 5-10 acres for the addition on her house, because she figured the land wasn't worth anything. The only thing they ever did anything the family ever did with it was get cedar posts off of it. It was just like 2 inches of dirt and then solid limestone. You know, I mean, you had a hard time making a fence post, and mind you, so they would cut down cedar trees and drive them up to the main road and see how many they could sell to, you know, get a little extra money. That's what the family has always done with that area. And that was in Cedar Park area, north of Austin. That land ended up being worth millions. But she didn't know that, so she traded off like, you know, probably $500,000 worth of property for a addition, and then she said, why don't you help him build that addition? I want to make sure he does it. Yes, ma'am. So I'm working with my uncle, which is my grandfather's oldest daughter. She married a kind of a hippie looking dude named Russell Patronella, and he kind of knew what he's doing. It's pretty good. Framer, hanger. And he was like, hey, you want to work with me? Yeah, I'm going to work with you, help you out. He's like, hey, you don't have to do that. No, Grandma wants me to. Okay, she's trying to make sure I'm doing it. Little short guy. Looked like a little short Castro, we used to call him, when I used to work with him. Anyway, we built this addition, and my grandmother, you know, really didn't use it. She'd gotten so used to her bedroom being a certain place, her bed being a certain place, her clothes being a certain place, and she wore the same clothes. She had liked her clothes, didn't want no more new clothes. She would always get her hair done, and then wrap her hair up before she go to bed. But she didn't want anything to change. The best thing she could hope to happen is nothing would change. So one time, this is a memory being in my grandmother's house. It was kind of cold, and I had never been around horror movies. And I was in my grandmother's place, and she had asked me, hey, could you make sure the heat doesn't die down before I get home? And it wasn't, you know, real late, like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and it was kind of late for her, but she was out with some friends. I think it was family. I think it was friends. Anyway, I'm watching this show for the first time, and it was scary to me. It was Halloween. I'm like, holy cow, this guy's chasing people, and I'm right beside the stove, and it's dark outside, you know. And this guy's, you know, all the things. He's chasing some woman down a high school hallway. It was just scary. This is probably one of my first, maybe not the first, but one of my first horror shows. And I'm like, why am I watching this? This is way too scary. I'm all by myself. I'm a grown big old guy. I was 6'1", 6'2", 170 pounds, you know. 175. Man, this dude might pop up from anywhere. So I wasn't watching. There's a little fan to blow the heat away from the warm morning. It has a built-in fan. She wanted a bigger one, and when I sat in the chair, it's a little bit longer, and it stretched the cord out that goes back to that fan, and that cord got next to the heater, and right in the middle of one of those. And this is in between commercials, which gives you some relief, you know, in regular movie. It's in TV. And the cord was up against that heater and was burning. I didn't know it. But right in the middle of one of them scary deals where he's chasing somebody down a dark hallway or something, all of a sudden, crack, lights go out. I'm like, whoa, this dude's here. It's bothering me. Oh, my God. What had happened was that cord got shorted out on the stove, and, you know, it tripped the breaker on the lights in the whole section of that house, you know. I'm like, oh my God. Couldn't have made it any scarier for some innocent guy to never seen And I still don't like horror shows.
You don't like women screaming.
I do not like women being hurt at all. So there's a little bit about my grandmother and my second grandfather. My grandmother was a pretty neat woman. I wouldn't say, superhero, but she endured a lot. Put up with a lot from her first husband, which was the one I told you that I never saw when he wasn't drunk, except for the one time. But he left her for another woman and another woman, and he went through like 5 divorces or something. Spent most of his time drunk. And she went ahead and raised the kids. And she raised my dad to be the head of the house. So my dad, with all his pompadour hair and slick back 50s, vehicle and big ears.
What are you
saying? He should not have done the big slick back hair thing. He should have let the hair come out a little bit. Maybe even come over the ears. Might not have been in fashion, but Anyway, she had him go and go to work, and he went, for whatever reason, he decided to get into the union, the electrician's trade. And I haven't heard the story yet, and if I have, I've forgotten why he decided to be an electrician and how it tilted that way. So he ended up going into the union to learn how to be a journeyman electrician. And then later on a master electrician. So she had him to kind of be bossy with his sister and brother in the same house, while she went to work at the nursing home or as an LPN. So she was always pretty.
I don't know what it is about nurses that just
endure.
No, creep. Find me, come and be my husband.
I think they're attracted to those women.
Yeah.
They go in there and it's like, oh, hey, I need to focus on this woman. She got a job. A good job.
Hyper-confident, A-type.
Yeah.
Type A personality.
Boastful. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, the woman usually is.
Yeah.
Hyper-confident, type A personality, because they've had to.
She was timid soul, modest, kind of had osteoporosis a lot of her life. Spent a lot of time bent over things, taking care of vitamins and pills and medicine, and so she spent a lot of time. But she had big old poofy blue hair most of her life that I knew her. I'm sure she had a interesting look at some point in her life. But she was special to me too, and she had a different effect on me by far than the man she married the second time. We had a pretty decent relationship, and she allowed me to work on things around the house. She's like, don't you break it now. I don't have money to be paying nobody to fix it. Now make sure you know what you're doing. Yes, ma'am. And I'm like, oh, I better not mess up. And I didn't have the right tools. I knew, I needed some tools. I had some, so I had to go buy tools and try to fix things around the house and work on her car, check the oil, check the water. Her son did pretty good. He was, like I say, a year younger than me, but he was chasing girls earlier than me. I just didn't. I figured if you chase girls, you end up married or with responsibilities at the very best. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be married. I don't want to have kids. Well, I don't want to chase girls. That's just going to mean I end up married. They kind of, I had a crush on a few, and it made my heart go pitter-patter, made me kind of get shy. But I just didn't want to get married. Not because I wanted to mess with girls. I figured if I messed with girls, I would eventually have the responsibilities of children and a woman. I'm like, oh, no. There's too much life to do. Why want to do that? No. Of course, I was raised to be better than that. So these are all things that have an influence on how I view things in videos and things like that, or how I think about people and my viewpoints about bad commenters. Maybe there's a little bit of my grandpa want to just bite their head off and say, and look how stupid you are in front of everybody. Then there's a part of me that's like my grandmother, and there's a part of me like my mother who, you would have to really push her to get her to. She wouldn't say what she's getting ready to do. She would be quiet until such time but she would be fiery if she needed to be. But, it was rare. Mostly with me, because I was hard to deal with. These things are what kind of curbs me. My dad has always been a well-spoken guy. I wouldn't call him a wordsmith, but he was pretty well-spoken. He knew enough to be able to, I could be proud of him easily. So it was never, I can't remember my dad being an embarrassment to me. You know how valuable that is? I mean, even when I saw my dad's belly getting all flabby and he'd kind of make fun of it, I guess I'm not young like I used to, am I, Sandy? He'd walk around the house with his no shirt on, and my mom would like, Bill, put a shirt on, because he knew he was kind of making her irritated with him because he was being, flamboyant for my family. But, my dad was never an embarrassment to me. I was fond of my dad in those years, even though I was now getting to where I got way more spankings than all my brothers and sisters got put together. So, mind you, my relationship with my dad was different than those. And everybody's viewpoint is different. But I adored my dad. My dad was such a special thing to me. I mean, he didn't teach me to be just like him. Even though he had a best friend one time, he goes, hey, what are you going to be? I don't know. I might be a race car driver. I might be a truck driver. He said, what does your dad do? Oh, he's an electrician. Well, that's what you're going to be. My dad didn't force me to be anything. He did not say, this is what you're going to be, and now you don't got no choice. He just showed me things. And he had to, because I was overwhelming curious and exceptionally loyal. Follow him around. My fingertips were freezing, and I'd be trying to help him shake and hand him tools, and that's like, why don't you go in? No, sir, I'm fine. I'm shaking, holding the cold wrenches. Son, you don't have to stay here with me. No, yeah, I did too. Yeah. I wanted to know what he knew. I wanted to see what he was doing. I was amazed by his abilities as a young guy, and he was willing to show me things. Like, woo, where did that come from?
There was no YouTube.
Right. It was me tubing on my dad. So, yeah, I remember trying to stay up because he was driving through the night with my mom, pinching him if he was going too fast. And, he got, son, you don't have to stay up. Just go ahead and lay back there with your brothers. Just, it's like, no, sir, no, you don't have to stay up just because I'm up. And I was like, I can do this. And I'm going to get tears in my eyes. I was like trying to stay up. I can do it. And I was exhausted, just amazed at how my dad could just keep on driving, and he could work on things and do things. And I'm like, oh my, this guy knows everything, and I probably thought that after I was gone. I mean, my dad was, to me, a magician in that, he could do electrical work. And so, I didn't agree with him on everything. By now, I'm 17 years old. I'm like, but I didn't dare say that to him. You get popped. I was always respectful. I was taught to be respectful to anybody older than me. But I was like, I was starting to get, I'd like some choices. I didn't think I could do things on my own. And he's like, nope, you ain't ready yet. And I got a 24-year-old, maybe 25-year-old. I still ain't ready. Like, you need to get out. I'll be like, no, I know he's got to go, He's softer and gentler than I was. And I'm proud of it. He's going to be responsible for the choices that he makes. Good or bad, he's responsible for his choices. But I certainly am proud of who he is at this point. I think he could be more. But I look around, there's so many bad examples that he could have been, and I hope he's not in the future. Both of those boys, all of my boys, one of them I'm not very pleased with, but these are the things that influence my viewpoint toward other people's situation. And say somebody's having a horrible time holding his family together, and a woman that don't want to be with him because he don't have as much money as her girlfriend's guy does, and they're fighting, and then he watches one of my videos and he makes a comment, I try to imagine in my head, this guy's having a bad time, and I don't want to embarrass him in front of everybody, but I will mention to him, hey, been doing this for 25 years, and you say it's going to happen, maybe it'll happen in 35 years, 45 years.
Honey, you keep forgetting to add.
Yeah.
Our sons are 25.
Right, I bet. I tell them, like, hey, you're saying these bad things are gonna happen, but I've been doing this for this long. Maybe you ought to reconsider that, not putting a slip sheet on a piece of metal that's going over shingle roofs, not gonna cause the metal to rot out from the bottom and ruin the whole roof. When I've been doing it for 30 plus years, not had that happen yet. Maybe it's gonna happen at 40 something years or 50 something years. I'm amused by it. I mean, the only bit of me that might be angry is I'm trying to now I got to figure out how to be tactful to this guy that I'm amused by. I'm like, how do I do this so I don't hurt the guy who doesn't know any better, who's just saying things because you can on the internet and not be held accountable. Yeah. If you wouldn't do that right in front of me without worrying, because I'd be setting you on your ear. I wouldn't hit you necessarily, but you'd be thinking my breath might not be as good as you want. We'd be close because you don't call me out, don't call me a liar, don't call me somebody that's taking advantage of other people if you don't know what you're talking about. So I would call you out if you did something like that in public. I'm not doing that in front of, sometimes 70,000 views. I think the channel's got 2.7 million views. I want people to understand. I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want them to think that I'm demoralizing them, that they're not capable of coming and making another comment or asking questions. I just want them to be conscious of the fact that they just blurted out something they shouldn't have blurted out. So I have to figure out how to do that tactfully. That would be the closest thing to irritation. Most of it is just amusement. I'm amused by the fact that somebody would just up and publicly by the way, everything you say on that phone, text, email, everything you're doing is there for the rest of your life. You want to be careful what you say. When somebody comes on and says, a 3-year-old monkey could do better, I'm like, where did you get that?
Yeah, we've had that comment a couple times.
Yeah.
I'm like,
where have you been comparing 3-year-old monkey skills? I mean,
I'd like to hire that monkey.
Yeah, where do you buy those monkeys? I would, rent them. Because there's some places I'd rather a monkey go than where I went. I could be angry about it, and I'm like, I don't want to I don't want to hurt this guy's feelings. I just want to understand what he's doing. So this is not a random comment. I'm really cautious about what I share with you guys. And yes, when I stop making mistakes, I will be dead. I just don't make a lot of mistakes, particularly when I'm sharing with friends. So, people can be upset at all they want, and I get it. There can be other people that do it differently than I do. I get it. I'm never going to go to their channel because they went to my channel.
They don't have a channel.
Well, I have went to the trouble of looking up some of these people. Some of them have a channel. They like personal pictures and videos of a boat or something, but there's nothing wrong with that. They're leaving memories there. They have sort of 7 videos or something, or maybe even more. I just let me see if they share with me who they are, and I can maybe get a grip on the surface of not popping this balloon. I just want to move it out of the way and okay, you need to think about what you're saying here. I don't want to talk to them like, they're mentally handicapped, but I have to, some of the comments, you'd be giving them something if you wanted it to be an intelligent comment. Like, okay, you should have thought about that before you said it. But that's okay. The only reason I respond to it is because I don't want the people that read his comment or her comment. Well, it's only his. It's only guys, and I get it. They need to protect their area and their viewpoint. Sometimes they can't help but spit it out or thumb it out, which I'm slow at. I use the Columbus method. It's called discover and land. No, I'm a little bit better than that. But anyway, yeah, she laughs. She uses a special kind. I couldn't even get on her keyboard because her keyboard is a Dvorkian. Dvork.
Yeah, I don't use the QRT.
She doesn't use QRT. She's a Dvork programming on the keyboard. So if I got on her keyboard, a bunch of weird things would be happening, even with the Columbus method. But she can go really, really fast. I don't know how fast. What was it?
I haven't done my speed. When I was on the QRT, I was doing 90 a minute.
QRT, she was 90? Yeah, and faster. Now
I'm faster.
Now she's way faster. So anyway, that's the reason she did it, and it's easier on her hands and all that stuff. So anyway, I don't bother her with the comments. Sometimes she intercedes on some comments. She'll like, oh, well, that's on another video. If you have that question, there is an answer to that. But
you gotta have a link thrown in or something like that. That'll be me answering.
She throws the links in. I don't. I just tell you there's another video. And maybe this is part of another video. And your questions are probably legitimate, but I don't want you, to think. I'm twisting wrenches on a car on the side of the road, climbing up into attics, down into septic tanks, climbing into trees this week.
Trees, porches, trims on the outside of windows. I don't know.
Trim around a bathtub.
Yeah.
Electrical on the outside, flooring. There's a bunch of different things in one day.
The flooring you did on our trailer.
Yeah. Still all on the same day. I don't want you guys to ever think that it's arrogance. I hope that doesn't come out that way, or haughtiness. It is more amusement and how to be tactful to the probably sensitive person. She calls them trolls. I get amused by them.
I tell him, don't feed the trolls.
She tells me, don't feed the trolls. But I usually have conversations with them enough. There's been one or two maybe that just wouldn't quit, and you had to block them. They didn't have to make any sense. But that's just rare. Most of the time they realize, that, I'm just...
Most of the time they're embarrassed. They didn't even think you would read it.
Well, I don't think most people respond to other people's comments.
Most people don't read it.
Yeah, Joe Rogan says, I don't read those things. People are crazy on comments. Oh, I do. Because it's important to me that I leave the right impression. If you have a question, I don't want to ignore you. What you leave behind is how you affected other people. And I'm handing out what little bit I have learned along the way. And if we all did that, how much of a better place would it be? If we all shared and learned from one another, how much better of a place would it be? That's what I leave. I will be in better shape next week. Or at least I hope so.
God, it's got to get better.
Well, hopefully, then I want to talk about my mother, who is a massive influence on me. And I will try to do it without emotions coming up, but I don't know that I can. She was such a wonderful person. It was amazing to have a mother and a father who were that special. In a world that, you try to nowadays you don't look around and say, well, there's a lot better mother or father than that. No, they were not wealthy. Well, some at one point, but a couple points maybe. But
I was going to say, your dad lost, 3 fortunes?
Yeah. I remember my mom going to garage sales. She parked the Cadillac down the road and walked to the garage sale.
She's embarrassed.
She's embarrassed by the Cadillac. Yeah. I could go on a long time talking about my mom. So anyway, I will try to do that next week. Not that this is a channel about talking about moms. It is an explanation as to the character of the videos that you're watching. So you can know a little bit about how I end up having personality coming out. I would not want to give the bad things to my parents. The energy, the ADD, if you will.
ADD on HD.
Yeah, on high def, ADD and HD. Yeah, that's I wouldn't attribute that to them. That's me making up for time being bedridden. It's gonna take the rest of my life to make up for all that. So anyway, thank you for being around, listening to me, and me making an explanation. If not to you, then to my boys at some point when they want to sit down and say, "Hey, what did Dad think about this?"